Oh, wrong side, okay. Okay. Alright. So it was not up there. Okay. 63416 341. Yeah. Ah, now I can open it. Okay. This is the Farley house. They had mines everywhere. So, okay, now I have a shortcut, kinda. Welcome to Hunrat. Please give us a bit of information about you so we can get to know you a little better. Date you came from, please use 4-digit year. Where you came from, country and city, circumstance under which you were taken. Please note any dangers you noticed. Emptied and filed. Samuel Karen, 2017, Manakara, Madagascar. I had just arrived and was driving my supply truck. Arrived and was driving my supply truck along the coast south of Manakara, when I recall being washed away and the seed appeared. Male 61. Uziel Regenbogen, 1942, Lübeck. Oh, from Germany. The last thing I recall is a large rumbling while I was hiding in the cellar of a vacant building. I ran toward the bright light in the stairwell. 26. Samuel Caron, okay. So they were in danger. Maria Gallego, 88. Cozumel, Mexico. On my boat and bad storm. Female, 46. Ferry Kuyuyu, okay. Portland, United States of America, March 2042. From the future. Skiing. Mt. Hood. 37, male. More males than female. Oh, One female and a lot of males. Or Faying? Feini? Qiu? 2042, so in the future. I see. So not only... Yeah, of course. A lot of different people. Welcome. Okay, let's see. Ah, this is the same map that we saw. There's a cemetery, Farley's, the wall. Yeah, they call that the wall, right? Railyard, Bleeder Lake, fuel, supplies. Here's the river. Shop. So he was the scientist, kinda. Okay, what is this? 15. It also looks a little bit like, yeah, I don't know, a symbol. Door knots. A lot of stuff to read. I will read in the end. I first wanna look at everything. They played cards. Okay. A teddy bear or a koala bear. Okay. Can I open this?
We all lost everything. Everything but our stories. And they shouldn't be forgotten. I was 3. It was April of 1983. Cecil, it was 1870 for you. Sam and Vera, you tell it like it was yesterday, but it's been 62 years since you saw that blast of light. And that's where all of our news stories began. That light, it streaked across the sky, mesmerizing, but unnerving. Some of you were alone, I wasn't. My dear grandma, God bless her, rejoiced as if it was some forebearer of good fortune. Vera, you said you recall smiling. None of us understood. But, well, we followed. Whether it was in the deep woods like Cecil or right outside town like Jane and Jenny, we were drawn to see more. Grandma lifted me from the carriage on the porch and walked into the yard so we could watch it unobstructed. Even in daylight, Joseph, you said, was gloriously bright. But in the twilight, it was spellbinding. And we all felt some kind of trepidation, and yet attraction as we approached it, and it approached us.
There were so many people coming to this place that they had not enough, like, how to say, space on the cassette. So it was overlaying and overlaying and overlaying. Okay, what is this? Soria Mofang? Heart. Earth. Tree from seed. Swap. Seed pair. Find planets with similar atmospheres. Heart connected path open when mature. So they thought that it is like a portal. And that it is a seed from the tree. So that the tree is the one that is taking them. So that they take care of the tree. Heart superposition. 4 species meet. 4 different species meet there. I see Soraya, Mofang. They call it Mofang, but I think the real name is Soraya or Soraya. There someone made a photograph. What happens at fruition? Swept where? Home? When? Maybe dead? More seed pairs scattered throughout the universe? Why scattering? Okay. My brother, small and nice, sings constantly, as noisy as a rock concert. If only he would be quiet. Okay. Okay, then we gonna read all those papers here. Oh my gosh. I shall document the curious events that have transpired with myself, my family, friends, and co-workers. Hartnell was a peaceful mining town founded by my grandfather and nestled within the red sock of the desert in the I'm sorry, in the Arizona territory. Its 163 inhabitants heard a mighty explosion on the night of June 27th, 1903. I sent several workers through the town to verify that the explosion had not caused any injuries or damage to mining equipment. They returned and reported that it must have been a loud clap of thunder caused by dry lightning, for they found no damage. It was not until the light of the next morning that we were amazed to realize something profound had indeed occurred. At some point during that night, our entire mining facility and a large circle of the land around it seemed to have been scooped up and carried off to a completely different place, all without anyone knowing about it. Okay, so that is why there is the landscape. It was a mining town in 1903, and that is kind of funny because it reminds me on Oz a little. The entire landscape outside of our circle of desert could only be described as alien. Large floating rocks could be seen in the distance. No one had ever seen anything like it anywhere on Earth. We fully explored our new surroundings, hoping to find a way home. No way home was ever found. In fact, we soon discovered what we take for granted now. Not only could we not get back home, we also could not access the landscape outside the desert. Curiously, we discovered that a flow of water was provided from a high point of rock, and we discovered a small tree growing in the very center of the circle. Our central tree that is so important to our lives here was just a mere sapling back then. Okay, it was just a little tree. Huh. Okay. Species description. Mofang. Through ambassador seeds, the Mofang were the first non-human species humans were introduced to. And An Liang was the first to call the alien a Mofang, impressed with their advanced ability to imitate our sounds, movements, and mannerisms. Although they have a name for themselves, their language is mostly unpronounceable by humans. As a result, and because of their mimicry abilities, communication with the Mofang is primarily accomplished by their learning human languages, rather than humans learning to speak Mofang. They have been able to learn almost every human language represented in the Hunrat, enough to provide functional, if rudimentary, communication. The Mofang basic external morphology is remarkably humanoid. Bilateral symmetrical tetrapods. Bipedal head with anterior facial features. Okay. Mouth, eyes, nostrils. Other external features include minimal body hair and raised dorsal protrusions. Constitution is somewhat frail, due apparently to their thin and lightweight internal structure, but internal investigation has not been possible. They have ample cranial space to account for a substantial brain, and their intelligence is impressive as evidenced by their advanced technology. Okay, so this is what they look like, I see. Arai. After a certain level of maturity and health of the tree, a passage opened at its base. This passage allowed contact with two additional species. The first contact was with the Arai. The first contact revealed the Arai to be large beetle-like insects. Ah. So this is a species. Okay. We were unable to communicate directly with them in any way, but they appeared to have some rudimentary level of intelligence. It was Loring Todd who first made the journey through the heart to Kaptar and named both the New World and the inhabitants. The heart to Kaptar. So they were able to travel through portals, but they were not able to go back home. The Arai have three distinct variants that have come to be referred to as barnacle, beetle, and polyarch. Although their morphology is dramatically different from human, their internal systems, like all of our neighbors, are supported by similar atmospheric composition and basic nutrients. In their barnacle stage, the Arai are completely immobile. The Arai stay in this egg-like development state seemingly indefinitely. In order to hatch, they must be in proximity of a polyarch and fertilized by the beetles after a certain stage of maturity. The beetles are the eyes and ears, hands and feet. With only a minimal nervous system of their own, they are essentially the sensory extensions of the immobile polyarchs. They are able to execute simple commands, but apparently have very little in the way of individual sentience. Sentience, I don't know. Okay. The Arai polyarchs are the intelligence and consciousness of the species. Although it was obvious that there was intelligence behind the species, it wasn't until Caroline Farley began spending large amounts of time in close proximity that deeper communication began. With the room nearby, Farley was the first to communicate non-verbally and learn much about the species. including some historical information. The Arai species survived in their world, while several other sentient species came and went. Among them, an ancient species who formed a deeper relationship with the Arai, carving temples and dwellings for them in the rocks. And later, a more recent species that took over much of their homeworld. This latter species was especially adept at mechanical construction, using it mostly to capture and process large flying creatures, using the beetles as bait. Okay. This is the polyarch, I guess. Villain. The final species to be discovered were the Villain. The Villain had been communicating with the Arai for many years through ambassador seeds, but became part of the larger community very shortly after the Arai. With a large and imposing frame and a form of communication based on a complex multi-voice to low-frequency rumble, the initial introductions were intimidating. After several attempts, Amélie Vidal was able to begin some rudimentary communication and began visiting the Villain in Marai, which she named, on a regular basis. She discovered a complex and amazing society that was able to use their technology in unexpected ways. They had the ability to quickly transform their world using extruded structures based on some form of complex miniature substrate material. Unlike the other worlds, the Villain sphere is scooped out of a Villain resettlement group that was preparing to set off into space to find a new homeworld. This was their way of life, to put themselves into stasis and scatter themselves through the stars. As mentioned previously, their appearance is imposing, standing about 9 feet tall, wow, with a distinct reptilian resemblance. They have 6 limbs, 2 muscular legs and arms, and a smaller set of arms. They control every aspect of their technology with their vocalizations, but over the years they have created control panels based on their number system that allowed other species to easier access elements of their technology. Okay, they're really big. They look like Yeti. 9 feet tall. Wow. Okay. So now we know who they are, I see. Communication, talking with our neighbors. We take communication for granted. Even with the varied languages we find here in Hunrat. But when we suddenly find ourselves among other intelligent species who don't share our culture, history, DNA, or vocal cords, it requires a huge amount of effort for the beginning of rudimentary chatting. This quick overview will set the stage for what to expect when communicating with our neighbors. Mofang. The Mofang were the first non-humans we met. With at least some level of similar physical vocal generating abilities, they picked up human words quickly. This early mimicry resulted in what the species became to be called. Even though they were able to mimic single words and simple phrases, it became evident over the years that huge grammatical differences were not easily overcome. Some have proposed that the difficulty may have arisen because the Mofang insisted on attempting to learn every human language, and as a result were never able to lock onto any consistent grammatical structure. Nevertheless, in spite of the rudimentary sentence construction, it has been very easy to communicate, and it has been unnecessary for us to learn the language beyond a few simple phrases and proper names. If you'd like to learn more about communication with the Mofang, please contact Tam. I can't. Villain. The Villain have presented a particular communication challenge. From what we can gather, they produce sounds using 2 large reed-like structures inside opposite sides of their heads. The vibrations generated are channeled to resonance chambers in their skulls, where they are combined into a complex, low-frequency dual tone. The low-frequency bitonal sounds are not only hard for humans to hear and resolve, but impossible for us to mimic. And the Villain's hearing is also oriented toward low frequency, so they are unable to hear most of the sounds associated with human speech. Therefore, communication with the Villain was relied on technology. They have adapted consoles, which the Villain fluently control with vocalization, for use by other species. Over the years, some individuals of other species, including a few humans, have learned to communicate very effectively using this method. Humans have been able to pick up some higher frequency characteristics of certain key villain words over the years. And although we can't speak to them in a way that the villain can understand, we are occasionally able to hear and recognize these words when spoken distinctly by the villain. If you'd like to learn more about communication with the villain, please contact Vito. Arai. None of the stages of the Arai morphology have any vocalization apparatus. Because of the obvious synchronization of the barnacle flash and the ability of the pawns to provide for and address the needs of the polyarchs, it was assumed that the species could communicate effectively. It was not until Farley began to spend large amounts of time in the polyarch antechamber that the first clues to this communication became evident. After months of research, Farley began to have limited success with receiving some kind of simple messages that were coming from the polyarchs. It is apparent now that the polyarchs had been attempting to communicate the entire time, but they themselves had been experimenting with the various channels until they finally got a response from Farley. After this breakthrough, others were able to tune in to the polyarchs and learn to listen. Both the polyarchs and the pawns have a simple organ that can sense human vocal frequency, enabling them to sense simple responses from humans. But over the years, Farley was able to learn to speak to the polyarchs via a related form of extrasensory transmission. If you'd like to learn more about communication with the Arai, please contact Farley. Okay. Wow, it's so much to read, but it's interesting. Seed information. Ambassador seeds. And this, my friends, I will read the next time. I will end this for today, and we will see us in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.